This past week, there's really only about two things that you guys should be watching in theaters, and that is obviously The Wild Robot and Joker 2. Hold on, I gotta take this. Hello? Okay. I'm sorry. Guys, apparently I was wrong. The only two things to watch currently are The Wild Robot and Transformers 1. But regardless, there's one thing that you should definitely watch, and that is The Wild Robot. And we're going to obviously talk about this, but before I do, I'd really appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up, if you subscribed, and maybe even clicked that bell. But I mean, what can I say about this movie that hasn't been said? Yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it will make you absolutely cry. And yes, it is so uplifting. It's the type of movie that you leave out of the theater grinning ear to ear. But I want to talk about what makes this movie really particularly special, considering this is a DreamWorks product. And while, you know, the movie isn't the most perfect thing in the world, hell, if it came out last year, there's a strong chance it probably wouldn't have won Best Animated Movie. But I mean, that chance is here now. This movie is arguably, if not will, win Best Animated Movie, and for good reason. It is filled with emotion, and I think that's what separates it from a lot of DreamWorks films. While there's plenty of heart in movies like the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, the Kung Fu Panda trilogy, even some Shrek movies and Puss in Boots, this is kind of where it peaks. I mean, I genuinely teared up about 4 times during the viewing of this film, and cried, bawled one time. Like, absolutely could have honestly took a break in the hallway to wipe myself, because the movie, while it can really rip your heart out at times, it's just as much triumphant, just as much uplifting, a way that makes you cry genuine tears of joy. Like, that phrase is used quite a bit, but this is a movie that will give you that. And sure, does the movie have, let's say, the cinematic heights of a How to Train Your Dragon trilogy? No. Does it have the fun and silliness of the Kung Fu Panda movies? Not as much. And even the breakthrough of a mold that the Shrek movies were? No. But what this movie has over all of them is the amount of sincerity in it. I've never walked out of a DreamWorks movie feeling soulful within my heart. You know, you walk out of those Shrek movies having a phenomenal time. It's a meta commentary type of play on the fairy tales, and then you walk out of Kung Fu Panda after watching some kick-ass action and some hilarious moments that only could be made by Jack Black himself. And then you watch something like the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, which is something that you don't expect to be as good as it is, and it's this journey through kind of culture but also family. And what this movie does is it's pure heart from the beginning to the end, from the wildlife creatures that are surrounding the film to Roz the robot, which is a character that just evolves over the course of the movie, that just leaves you so satisfied. And sure, I won't say the story is delivered with such, you know, clear and transparency. You know, it's a bit rocky in how it's telling it, but once you get to the end, once you understand these characters' journey and what story they're trying to actually tell, you can't help but walk out of the theater completely fulfilled, blushing cheeks. And it is absolutely the type of movie that will uplift anyone, kids, adults, elders. It really is a broad appeal film, but it has a darkness to it that I wasn't expecting. This post-apocalyptic feel and almost separation from the real world. And while sure it might not seem like that on the surface, there's certain subtleties there, especially with how it tackles the topic of death or moving on from that. And I think it's an extremely refreshing way that it does it. It's not in your face. It's not bluntly hammered onto you. It's there, but very subtly. It's very well paid off. And for those audiences who will notice it, they'll get more out of it. And for those who don't, I'm sure they will on rewatch. I mean, it's a film that does great things on a character level, but the animation paired up with it is just as great. I mean, this is as gorgeous as I've ever seen DreamWorks animation get. Obviously, the last real hitter that they had was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and that was a really big kind of breakthrough in terms of that franchise. Particularly, it never really had that style or look, and they really went for it a bit more with the animation. But the Wild Robot is, simply put, it's gorgeous. You can pause any frame and it's phenomenal. The backgrounds are kind of these matte painting looking backgrounds, but also mixed with that CG painterly looking effect, and then you get the bright colors, the swirling visuals from the wildlife, not only from the animals but from the plants, from the trees, from the flowers, everything. I mean, it's all made with a purpose, and especially when you get to the second half of the film where some new things are introduced regarding Roz, you really see that difference, and I think it brightens up the wildlife world that the movie is really about even more. And obviously Chris Sanders is no rookie to the animation game, obviously doing the How to Train Your Dragon movies, Lilo and Stitch, and other ones. I'm pretty sure he voiced Stitch as well. He clearly has something special, and I think he has a certain touch that he brings to his films, and that's really giving humanity to certain characters that I don't think we would expect. Obviously with How to Train Your Dragon, it's the dragon, and with Lilo and Stitch, it's Stitch, and here it's with a literal robot. He's able to humanize these characters, and in a way where you genuinely care for them, not because of the story around them, but because of the journey they are going through. And that's truly special in a world where we're becoming more and more worried about the world being dominated with AI. This movie somehow makes you forget that. It's so optimistic that you forget about it. It's like a weight lifted off your shoulders. The entire film really is bittersweet and very melancholic with such uplifting moments. And sure, is the score the most absolute special? No, it might not reach those How to Train Your Dragon heights, but I mean, it absolutely gives you those feelings, the chills on your back, the goosebumps on your arms, everything. When it needs to be triumphant and lift you up, it absolutely does it 100%. And I do think it has that DreamWorks level of humor where it's kind of dark a little bit, and it makes it even funnier. There's multiple jokes about death in here, and I could not get enough of the possums specifically. But this story is between Roz and her little duckling, and the journey they go on and this acceptance of motherhood and what comes with that is truly special. I mean, you're seeing someone absolutely grow before your eyes, but also getting the opportunity to watch them get taught how to actually properly lead, how to do the things where when you do have to separate and do have to move on, you kind of know what to do. That's something that's easily teachable, I guess, but when you're making an animated movie for kids, I think it handles that theme pretty much perfectly. And yes, there's some standouts in the voice acting department. Obviously, Lupita Nyong'o as Roz is by far the standout, but I loved Matt Berry getting in the voice acting with Paddler, and I also really loved Catherine O'Hara as Pinktail. I thought she was hilarious. Now, Pedro Pascal's Fink, while is a big contributor to this movie, I could have done without him, but I appreciated his character arc. But all around, I mean, as I said before, it's really a gorgeous movie. Would not be surprised if this ends up winning a Best Animated Feature. I can't really think of the movies that would compete with it. The only film I could think of is Flow, and a lot of you all probably haven't seen that. So no, it isn't a perfect movie, but that's okay. No films really are. And I think what this movie sets out to do, it absolutely delivers. You know, sure, it has stumbles getting along the way of the story it's telling. Some of the voice acting could have been better, and the pacing, but these are such minor nitpicks in a movie that is otherwise extremely enjoyable. It's filled with so much emotions. You're laughing one moment, tearing up the next, through joy, through sadness, and everything in between. And that's kind of what you want out of these movies. And while the DreamWorks movies can be surface level or maybe do a little spin on something, this is adapted material, and I don't really know how the book is, but if it's anything like this, I'm sure it's amazing. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. Giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing would mean the world. I appreciate you all more than you know, and please, as always, do not forget to leave your thoughts below. I love discussing with you guys, especially on this movie. Would love to hear your thoughts. But other than that, stay safe, and hopefully I see you all in the next one.